Hey everyone, welcome back. Hope you guys are having a great weekend. It's Sunday now, Sunday Eve actually, so it's around 7 o'clock right now. Did some research on MicroStrategy, so we're going to take a look at them. Are they basically a Bitcoin proxy when investing in MicroStrategy? We'll take a look at all the data that we do have on them. We'll also take a look at what would happen if Bitcoin possibly goes up to like 75, 100,000, 150, 200,000 with them, where the stock could possibly go based on the previous data that we do have for them. And we'll also take a look at Bitcoin and the miners, how they performed last week. So Bitcoin versus miners. And then we'll call it a day. We'll also take a look at, obviously, the Bitcoin price right now, action, and what's going on in the charts. That's it. Okay, so it should be relatively quick here. But as always, you guys know the drill here. Not financial advice for entertainment only. Do your own research. I'm invested in following coins and companies for full disclosure. And no, I do not get paid by any of these companies that I talk about here. So I just want to point that out. There's been a couple guys in the comments in the past that have said, how much am I getting paid for doing these kind of videos? I'm not getting paid by anybody except for you guys watching here and from the Patreon members as well. Okay, full disclosure. So let's take a look at the market here, see what's going on there. And we can see here that the market right now on Bitcoin's actually down a little bit here on the new day. It's down 0.06%. Bitcoin was up slightly on, well, today, up to 7 o'clock p.m. Central Time. It was up 0.17%, so close to 27,123. We're still obviously battling with our resistance line here, which is the 20-day moving average, the yellow line. We did go above it here a little bit today, breached the 50-day moving average, but then we came back down below it. So we'll see where things end up at. We still have our 200 weekly moving line here, average line, and that's continuing to increase. I don't know if we're going to hold off until those lines cross, possibly, and then maybe we'll go up or we'll possibly go down further to the 200 daily moving average, which is the blue line here. We'll see what happens. We just don't know. It's up in the air right now as far as which way it's going to go. Okay. Ethereum was also, let's see here, down today actually. On the day it was down 0.13%. It's down again right now, 0.02. So it closed today at 1,890. And it's down right now. Actually, now it's up 0.02% to 1,890. So we'll see how Ethereum and Bitcoin do going forward. But let's take a look at the network hash rate as well. See what's going on there on that one. If we get any updates on it. And it is back up to 376 million right now on the 7-day average. And on the 1-day average, it is back down here to 331 million. Okay, so we're still kind of bound in this rectangle that we're kind of trading in, or not trading in, but the hash rate is bouncing between right now, between roughly 371 and somewhere around 320 million right now. Okay, so that's it for those. Let's take a look at really quick here, MicroStrategy, then we'll get into Bitcoin versus the miners for the past week. Okay, so MicroStrategy, you guys know him probably with Michael Saylor. He's a huge proponent of Bitcoin and putting Bitcoin on the balance sheet. They own currently about 140,000 Bitcoins on their balance sheet. They took on a lot of debt to get there with it, but we'll take a look at all the numbers here. But basically, MicroStrategy is an intelligence everywhere company. They have analytics for businesses and things like that for if we look at it here, let's see, your solutions, financial services, healthcare, retail, government, they do a bunch of analytics for them. And that's how they make their money based on that. You can take a look at the company about here, but they also have some interesting things happening around Bitcoin. So you got the Bitcoin Lightning for corporations, which is kind of interesting here. You guys can take a look at all this here, but they're doing a lot of good things. I've seen Michael Saylor's in the public eye a lot of time about Bitcoin and talking about the future with Bitcoin. And you also have the Lightning Network here, which is going to be used for companies as well. So Lightning Rewards they're working on, rewards customers, employees, event attendees, or anyone with Bitcoin, incentivizes any behavior and maximizes engagement with instant Satoshi redemption. So they're kind of trying to get people on board to use Bitcoin as a reward system. And it's just kind of interesting the way that they're going about it. I don't know much about it other than it looks kind of cool here. We'll have to see how this actually generates income for them going forward, but we'll see. Obviously, this is just something that's brand new for them. And they've also had emails tied to Lightning Network, if I'm not mistaken. Correct me if I'm wrong here. I'm going off memory here as far as an article that I read earlier. But basically, you can send Bitcoin through your email address, which is kind of cool as well. Okay, so that's in a nutshell what MicroStrategy is about here. All right. The big thing is obviously the revenue that they generate currently from their operations. And if we look at it here, this is from their 10Q report as of, I believe, March 31st, 2023. At that time, as of April 24th, 2023, the registrant had 10.9 million shares outstanding. That's kind of the number we're going to be using here going forward. And if we look at it down here, as far as what their numbers are actually like, current assets, we can see here the current assets did improve here to 94 million from 43 million from last year. Restricted cash went down a little bit here. Accounts receivable went down as well, 139 million from 189. Prepaid expenses about the same here. Total current assets is actually down to 259 million from 264 million. Digital assets, however, which is Bitcoin here, that went up to 2 billion roughly from 1.8 billion. They have been buying a lot of Bitcoin. Property and equipment went down a little bit here. Right of use assets went down a little bit as well. Deposits and other assets went down just slightly here. And deferred tax assets went way up here to 651 million from 188 million. So total assets went up to 3.02 billion from 2.4 billion. So that's good there. So they definitely have a lot of assets. But when you look at the debt here, long-term debt net was 2.1 billion, and that's where they used a lot of their cash to buy Bitcoin, right? So that's kind of how they're being valued right now based on that. And total liabilities is 2.5, so that's actually down from the 2.7, so that's actually a good part here. Assets are up, liabilities are down. That's always a good sign there. And then revenue, as far as what they get revenue from product licenses, was up to 17.4, so that is a good increase there, along with subscription services. That was up to 18.8 million from 12.8, so that's good there. Total product licenses and subscriptions was up to 36 from 29, so that is an improvement nonetheless. And then product support was actually down to 65 from 67, and other services was also down a little bit here to 20 from 22. But overall, total revenue did increase to 121 million from 119 million, right? But you really don't care about MicroStrategy as far as what they're doing here. You're looking to see if MicroStrategy is a good proxy for Bitcoin, right? So if you buy shares of MicroStrategy, will that go up in value the same way that Bitcoin is going up, right? So Bitcoin goes up 100%. Will this stock go up 100%? So in order to do that, we have to look at some of the historical data that we do have on these two products. And if we look over here, I actually pulled this up just a little bit ago. So this is for 2021 chart. This is how things played out during 2021. MicroStrategy started buying a little bit at that point. And you can see here that MicroStrategy was actually up only 28% on the year, whereas Bitcoin was up 62.29% up at that time. This is for 2021. And this was, yeah, it finished out the year. I mean, it was up much higher at the November timeframe when Bitcoin is really when it peaked, right around 69,000 here. Bitcoin from the beginning of the year to the end of the year ended up at 62% up. MicroStrategy ended up 28%. Okay, so a little bit lower than Bitcoin here. Now we get into 2022, and we can see here that Bitcoin was down 42%, while MicroStrategy was down 74.6% on the year. Okay, so we can see here that it does really follow Bitcoin for the most part pretty well. However, when we get into this year now, from the beginning of this year to to Friday, basically is when I did this, we can see here that MicroStrategy is up 108%, whereas Bitcoin is up 93%. Right? Where is it at? Nope. Bitcoin's up 63%. So from the beginning of the year to now, there is a little bit of a difference or disparity between MicroStrategy and Bitcoin. MicroStrategy has done about, I would say, 45% better than Bitcoin here. So it is more or less a proxy for Bitcoin going forward. Now, will that also translate into the future? Not sure. We'll have to see. They've been buying a lot of Bitcoin, like I said before. They're up to 140,000 Bitcoins right now. They will probably end up buying more, knowing Michael Saylor, but that's kind of hard to tell. So based on this data that we do have here right now, when Bitcoin is going up, it looks like MicroStrategy is doing a little bit better than Bitcoin is currently. So we'll take a look at some numbers that I have for you guys here and give you my thoughts on it. Okay, so if we look at it, let's see, here we go. So I pulled in the data for BTC right now, which is at 27,162, and then looking to see what that would mean if Bitcoin goes up to 50,000, 75,000, 100,000, 150,000, and 200,000. And then the number of MicroStrategy shares right now, which is at, like what I just told you guys, 10.9 million roughly. If that just stays the same, we're going to make it easy here. I don't know if they're going to dilute to buy more Bitcoin. Who knows? They could do it. But we'll use the numbers that we do have for them. And then as far as what the current share per price is for MicroStrategy, which is 302 right now, what that would mean. So what I'm doing here is basically taking the Bitcoin price, dividing it by the current price that we're at here. So 50,000 divided by 27,000 we're getting the 1.84. That's a basically 148% increase. And then same thing for 75%, we're getting 2.76, 100, 3.68, 150, 5.55, and 200,000 at 7.36. So 200,000, 150,000 is probably going to be after sometime after the halving event next year. Typically, historically, when Bitcoin goes up, it is after the halving events, right? We get a squeeze on Bitcoin as far as how much is being rewarded or being put out into the system, economy, whatever you want to call it. We are at currently 6.25 Bitcoins being rewarded to the miners currently. In a year, it will drop down to 3.125. At that point, you have a squeeze on it. Basically, it's supply and demand. There's going to be, if the supply stays the same, or the supply drops down, but the demand is the same, you're going to have increase in value for that product. Okay, so here's kind of what we're looking at. Right now, 302, Bitcoin goes up to 50,000. We're looking at possibly MicroStrategy being at $556. If Bitcoin goes to 75,000, we're looking at 834. If it goes to 100,000, we're looking at 1,112. If Bitcoin goes up to 150,000, we're looking at 1,668. And if we're looking at 200,000, we're looking at 2,225. And this is just one-to-one increase on it. Now, what are the chances of Bitcoin getting to 200,000? I'm actually estimating somewhere around 180-some thousand, possibly by the time, somewhere after the halving event, within the next, once the halving event happens, we're looking at about 12 months out, possibly we'll be at 180,000, possibly with a peak, and then we might drop down somewhere in between there. I don't know exactly when, but that's kind of what I'm looking at right now. And this is just right now one-to-one ratio on this. But as we've seen here in MicroStrategy, that this year they have actually done pretty well. They're above 40%, above where Bitcoin is right now. So if we add that into it here, 40% increase over it, we could be at $677, $955, or $1,233, or $1,789, or $2,346. We could be up much higher than that. These are just conservative numbers for MicroStrategy where they could possibly be, with Bitcoin price being at these levels. So based on the data that we do see here, I think as they get more and more Bitcoins on their balance sheet, the more they are going to become a proxy for Bitcoin as it is already. A lot of people are buying MicroStrategy because it's easy. It's on the stock exchanges. So you can do it there. You can buy it for your, well, you might be able to buy it for your retirement accounts, things like that. It's also included in other ETFs. It's included in also, I believe, oh, gosh, I'm drawing a blank here, but it's widely available as far as an investment tool for people to get into, right? Bitcoin obviously is a little bit more harder to purchase, especially for the novice, somebody that's new to getting into it. You got to get on an exchange. You got to know how to handle keys, things like that, and make sure that you don't get scammed and all of that. So it does make it a little bit more difficult and challenging for possibly the elderly generation, older people. I'm not bashing you guys at all, but I know by experience, my parents are in that generation as well. And technology is not something that they're very savvy with. So with that being said, I think MicroStrategy being a proxy for Bitcoin, it is true. We'll have to see how well it performs going forward with Bitcoin, obviously this year being kind of flux a little bit as far as which way it wants to go. I'm still guessing Bitcoin might get to about 42,000 by the end of this year, but we'll see. Right now, it's just kind of trading sideways. So we'll see if we get close to that, but that's kind of where I'm looking at. And then after next year, once we get past the halving event, this is when we really want to see the bull run happen. If that happens, well then, yeah, these numbers here might come to fruition, but we'll have to see, obviously, right? And that's based on Bitcoin going up, them having the same number of shares right now, and past performance being the same as future performance on it. So somewhere around these levels is kind of what I would be looking for, possibly MicroStrategy getting to if Bitcoin does have a bull run next year sometime. Okay, so with that being said, I think as a proxy might be a good one to get into. Obviously, don't invest more than you're willing to lose because Bitcoin could go down to zero. We just don't know. Okay, that's always a caveat that you have to kind of weigh in on this type of thing. It's the same thing with the miners, right? The miners are always they're more of a, they're like a leverage play compared to MicroStrategy. MicroStrategy is more of like a proxy, whereas the miners, Bitcoin goes up 50%, the miners can go up 100, 150, 200% on it. The same thing on the opposite side. When Bitcoin goes down, miners can go down even more than Bitcoin has. So always something to be careful of. Do your own research on this, but I think it's something that's possibly worth having in your portfolio a little bit, just as a hedge against Bitcoin going up. And yeah, let me know what you guys think of MicroStrategy. Next one we're going to get into sometime this week or next week is probably going to be Backed. We're going to take a look at Backed see what's going on with them. And yeah, we'll call it a day. But before we call it a day, we're going to actually look at Bitcoin versus the Bitcoin miners and for last week and see how they performed. So with these charts, you guys are probably well aware right now that the green lines are how much the Bitcoin miners are from their 52-week lows, along with Bitcoin, and the red lines are how far away Bitcoin and the miners are away from their 52-week highs. Okay, so we can see here that Core is still way up there at 802%, Cypher's at 575%, BitDigital 479, DigiHost 372%, Riot 260, Argo 252, Iris 243, Marathon 222, and then you got Bitfarms 221. Hut 176, TeraWolf 175, Hive 139, CleanSpark 138, Lawson 135, DMG 114. Bitcoin is up 74%, and Sphere is down 41%. We all know why Sphere is down here. They've been having trouble getting their miners installed and energized at hosting providers. Okay, now as far as 52-week lows, the closest one here is BitDigital, only 11% away from that. So if it goes up 11% in the next week or so, it might actually breach above that. And then we got Riot at 18%, and Bitcoin's only 14% away from that also. Right, so this is from 52 weeks. So basically, what was it last year in price on those? And you can see the other ones here as well. Now, as far as how did the miners do here for the last week? Well, Bitcoin was up basically here 0.198%, and this was on Friday. So I track it Friday to Friday, same as the miners, because the miners are only trading between Monday through Friday. So we do Friday to Friday on those. And we can see here that Mawson has done the best here, up 13.5, followed by Marathon up 12.3, BitDigital at 10.8, Bitfarms at 10%, Hut 8 up 9.6, Hive 8.7, Cypher up 7.9, Argo up 7.6, Riot 7.23, Sphere 6.89, and then DMG up 4.04. Bitcoin up 1.98%, and everybody else here has done worse. That includes Iris, TeraWolf, Core, CleanSpark, and DigiHost in that list. And then if we look at the 4 weeks here, see how things performed from 4 weeks ago. Let's see here. Descending. Actually, I want to do that descending. There we go. Okay. So we can see here that from 4 weeks ago, I had you bought 4 weeks ago, BitDigital will be the best performer here, up 55%. You can see the other ones here. Bitcoin's only up 1.66%, and these have done worse than Bitcoin, with the worst one being at 17.05, which is Sphere 3D. Next, let's take a look at the 8 weeks really quick as well. And I wanted to do that, descending as well. And we can see here that from that point, Bitcoin is down 10.62% from 8 weeks ago. Best performer here is BitDigital, 56.63%. And the worst performer here is still Sphere 3D. So you can see the other ones, how they performed as well. And then finally, let's get into the 12 weeks here as well and sort that ascending, or actually descending. Sorry. Okay, so from 12 weeks ago, the best performer here is TeraWolf, up 144%, BitDigital up 141%, CleanSpark up 69%, Riot up 44%, Bitfarms up 37%, Marathon up 22%, Iris up 17%, Hut up 14%, Cypher up 11%, Mawson up 10%, Hive up 6.56%, and Core is up 1.37%, while Bitcoin is actually down 0.64% from 12 weeks ago. So it's surprising that these guys have done a lot better than Bitcoin here. And you can see Argo has done the worst here at 24.4%. When we look at the data here, we can see that currently Hut 8 has had Hut 8 and BitDigital have had basically greens here for the 1 week, 4 week, 8 week, and 12 weeks. Other than that, who else has done pretty good here? Some of these guys here have done pretty good as well. The ones that have done worse were probably back over here with this half along with this part. So you guys can see the data here as well on it. And then here's how the weekly have been shaping up here. Last week was pretty much in the green for the miners, surprisingly. And the prior week was not so much in the green. It was more in the red. But the prior week to that was more in the green, red. Then we've had mixed here, green, and more green, and then red and green. So it is kind of up and down right now as far as which way Bitcoin wants to go in the miners. But we'll have to see. I still think that right now, during the summertime, it's one of those things where you sell in May and go away. You end up having lackluster June. July might be a little bit better historically. We've seen July be a better month for Bitcoin. August is up in the air, and then finally September, and then when we get into October and November, those are usually pretty good months for Bitcoin as well. So like I said, I'm still thinking Bitcoin might get to 42,000 by the end of the year. It would be basically, what would that be? Almost 100% increase in Bitcoin from where we are right now, roughly. maybe 80%, something like that. We're at 27,000 right now. So it'd be roughly around 80% increase. But yeah, we'll have to take a look at it, see where it goes down the road. And then we'll see what other miners report later on this week as far as the production is for May. We're still waiting on a couple of miners here to report. We are waiting on Argo, Bit Digital to report, Core Scientific, DMG, Hive, Hut 8, Iris, Mawson. Well, geez, Mawson I don't think even has reported in April, so I wouldn't be surprised if they don't report anything. Whenever their company doesn't report monthly operation updates, that's usually a worrying sign for me. We got Riot, Sphere, and TerraWolf as well. So we still have a lot to go through this week when the miners do report. And I'll keep you guys covered on those when those do come out as well. Okay, but other than that, let's go back here. Other than that, let me know what you guys think of this. Obviously, just a quick roundup of this, along with MicroStrategy. This will be available to my Patreon members as always. That will be available. Actually, this was available this morning when I did the data, and so they already have access to it. And I already published this, I believe, to the YouTube members as well. So thank you, everyone there, for their continued support. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did enjoy it, hit the like button, subscribe. Helps me out tremendously. And I'll see you guys in the next one. All right, bye.